that introduction. Yes, I'm going to talk about smart industry and the trends of today. I work in my daily work as an industrial expert at Tillväxtverket. We are working together with SME companies, and we are trying to help them to be better on the market. A few words about smart industry. What is smart industry, and why are we working as a government agency? Well, first of all, it's a priority by the government. The government has pointed out industry as a key area that needs to be developed, needs some help from government to further develop. It's kind of interesting. It's really a change in Sweden and in lots of countries in Europe, where everyone thought that we should develop the products here, and the production should be elsewhere, in China or other countries. But government has realized that this never really happened. We know that a lot of companies in Sweden, they have moved production to other countries where the wages are lower. But still we have the same amount of people working within industry as we had 25 years ago. It's 1.1 million people working in Sweden within industry. So the government launched a strategy called Smart Industry, and it's the Swedish version of the German Industry 4.0. And the aim is to inspire especially SME companies. The large ones, they are already there. They're working with the issues, and they have their own resources globally to find out what is going on. But the SMEs, they don't have the same possibility. The strategy is based on 4 pillars. I will come back to them. It's digitalization, sustainable production, competence provision to small companies, and also test beds. Now, this is the first slide on the front page of the Smart Industry strategy, and it's called a renewal strategy. It doesn't mean that close down what is and create something new. It says work with what is strong today and make it even stronger for tomorrow. And along with that, of course, a lot of new companies will be found, and so on. As I said, it's a renewal of the industry, and it's an ongoing transformation. We say it's the 4th industrial revolution. The 3rd one was really started with the numerical controlled machines that came in the end of the 1960s. Companies like ABB, ASEA in those days were among the first ones on the Swedish market in the late 1960s. But it took some 20 years before the main number of small companies really had adopted the new technology. So this 3rd industrial revolution can be said to have taken roughly 20 years. We don't have that time for the 4th industrial revolution. And one reason is that new factories built up in the former eastern countries of Europe, for example, they're not building with the old technique. They're building with new technique already at once. But we have, in Western countries, we have a lot of old machinery that we need to adopt to this. But the SMEs, they have difficulties to keep up with the speed of change it is high today. Things are changing faster than they used to. But it is not going that fast that everyone thinks that it's a new business model every 3 months. That is not so, because we have been talking for the last couple of years for Uber, Airbnb, and Spotify, and so on, and we're still talking about Uber, Airbnb, and Spotify, and we've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years. If it was a new business model every 3 months, we should have at least two new ones to talk about. It is going faster, but it's not going so fast that you cannot keep up with the speed. Digitalization is a new way of changing. It's a sort of change that is unusual to the traditional industry. Digitalization also means you can improve or you can change your business model. You can have a rental ideas instead of selling things and so on. And the industry has a hard time finding skilled staff, and we heard that from other speakers before in the afternoon. Young people, they don't think that industry is a way of working. They don't realize that industry is quite interesting, and that is because we have only about 80-90% of the total workforce in industry. And if a young person wants to choose a job, he or she wants to use a job he or she knows of. And if industry is not present, they don't know about industry, and they don't know what it is to work in industry, and they don't realize that this is a possible career way. So we're working with those issues as well as part of this strategy. And other countries around us are going faster in automation than Sweden are, which is kind of a change. For example, Denmark is developing much faster in the use of industrial robotics than we are in Sweden. Now, a little bit more about what is happening now. For the first, there could be said to be two different strategies on using digitalization. It's an internal strategy or an external. Maybe it's not called a strategy by the companies, but actually they are focusing either on internal or on external digitalization. And by internal, I mean some digitalization activities that are within the companies, and the aim is to make the company more efficient and so on. And examples of that is the Internet of Things. We be sure that our machinery is connected so that we can access it from a distance. We are collecting loads of data from our production. We are collecting big data, but what are we doing with it? Are we using this data to be able to see or predict things in our production, or are we just collecting it to no use? Some companies, they tend to start working with this. How do we use the data we are collecting within our own factory? And how can we use it in order to be more efficient? And the things that's really happening and has been happening for quite some time is that sensor techniques is so much cheaper today than it used to be. And it's due to our mobile phones. Today, if you want to measure, for example, sound, a sound meter, sound pressure meter used to be like 15 to 20,000 Swedish crowns, and that instrument today is not as good as a normal iPhone. So the mobile phone industry has changed the possibility of applying sensors, and that means that you can collect data from new machinery to a low price. But that's the internal focus. The external part of digitalization, that's searching for new products or new services or improving your business model. New ways of interacting with your customers. How can you provide information to your customer? How is it going? As I said on the other stage, just before I was in a panel there, if you order something on the internet, you get a shipping number, and you can trace your package all over the world and see when it's going to come. You don't know exactly in what spot on the earth it is right now, or if it's up in the air, but you know basically how far has it come in the distribution chain. But if a normal industrial company orders parts from a supplier, they cannot follow how far has this come in the production. They have to call the supplier and talk to the production manager, and he says, "Oh, I'll check." And he walks out into the factory on the floor and asks, "Where are those products for ABB? We need to have them, they're anxious," and so on. And they prioritize, and they have them to go faster through the factory. That's the normal situation of lots of Swedish SME companies. How can we react and provide this information for our customers to be able to log in and find it by themselves? You can also, by doing that, you can integrate, as a larger company, you can integrate your suppliers into your business in a better way. You can check into, well, if the customer places this order at my factory now, well, will my suppliers be able to provide me the new parts on time and so on? You can be able to give, for your customer, you can give a delivery date based on also what your supplier's possibilities are for the moment. And that is something that we have seen very little about, but that's part of the external digitalization strategy. We also see a lot of automation. The automation is something that is part, you could say that automation is part of digitalization, even though automation is sometimes coupled to hardware. But you can automate a lot of processes within your factory, within your company, using digitalization. But the thing is that the small companies, they are quite used to automation as a way of creating more efficient processes internally. But when you introduce Internet of Things and you connect your machinery, then you get completely new possibilities. But what are the benefits of it? How do we use it? Well, we can access the machines from outside or from distance and see how it is going. But what does it mean to me? And lots of companies are working with this connected factory. Everything should be connected within the factory. Just because it's possible? Yeah, could be one way. But how do you find a business in this? You invest heavily to connect all your machinery and to be able to have them to talk to each other, and you provide with data and so on, and it costs you a lot, but how do you make business out of it? Well, you get better knowledge about the production status, of course, you know what's going on. Yeah, could be good. It's better precision in predicting what delivery time and so on, and what is needed to be able to do what is on there. But how does it pay off? Well, you see a lot of large companies are working with this. We see, for example, Siemens in Germany are working quite a lot with this, and they have a kind of a model factory, so to speak, within this area, where you can access everything from outside. Yeah? But does it make the factory more efficient? Well, not necessarily. It is how you use the information. You provide this information, but how do you use it? You must use it in a way to increase your efficiency, to be able to justify that investment. The higher the investment, the longer time the companies will wait for with this stuff. We have one company in Sweden on the west coast that is a large supplier for the heavy vehicle industry, and they are doing a lot of this now. And they say, well, we go this way, and they have part of their investment budget is within this area, and they are not sure whether they're going to make a good return of investment, but they say, well, this is going to come, and if we are among the first ones, we might be able to take new orders due to that. We have these possibilities, but they still invest quite heavily without knowing what are going to be the benefits. But if we go instead for the external digitalization, new products and new services, the interesting thing is that companies, regardless of size, they work with this. Even the small ones are working with this. It is this way of interacting with the customers and so on, and also completely new products can be part of it. This way of using digitalization is to create new business, not only increasing the existing business, it's creating new business. If you, for example, use the internet and you let your customers provide all the information, and they actually design their product via the internet, you outsource some of your work that you use in your own department. You really outsource that to the customer. Now the customer is going to be happy, because the customer can decide exactly what he or she wants, and the customer can also get the price tag right quickly and so on. And you save money because you don't have to provide these services internally. So you outsource to your customers to make your customer happy. And this is quite interesting. And you see it both within the business to business, of course, but also in the business to consumer. Maybe a little bit more on business to consumer, you might think, but you see a lot of it in business to business. And I think that around this area, here is where you're going to find a disruptive development and within industry. With the internal focus on digitalization, you will not be able to do that much of a disruptive development as you can do with the business model. Now, if we look at the SMEs, what are the trends? Well, we can see today that it's a lot more companies asking for automation. And why is that? Well, we have not been focusing on these issues in Sweden for a couple of years. We have been working with other things. We have been working with lean production, and a lot of people said that lean production is going back to manual work instead of automation, and that is completely wrong. It has nothing to do with lean to go back to manual work. But the thing is, when you reorganize your process and so on, you become more and more efficient, and you don't need to automate. But when you have done that a couple of times, the next thing that is going to happen is that it's a demand for automation. And I wrote there is a paper in Sweden, a magazine, monthly magazine called Automation. And I wrote in that 2007 and said, what is coming after lean? And I said, nothing is coming after lean production, but the next step is increased demand for automation. And that's where we are now. So it's foreseeable that this would happen. A lot of things is internal digitalization. But interesting thing is when you compare Sweden and Germany. In Germany, which is a very, very strong industrial country, as you know, you see more companies working with this internal digitalization issues in Germany than you see in Sweden. But in Sweden, what we see is that this external digitalization, it is really growing. Companies are asking for this, but the SMEs, they are not so big in this. We have a large program where we work with that and we try to inspire the SMEs, but the problem for the SMEs today is that they are fully booked with production of today, and they have a hard time finding time to work with the future of their own business. As long as, not the normal business they are doing, but the next step or the next way of doing business. If you're, for example, instead of selling, you're leasing out your equipment and so on. The companies are too fully booked to be able to work with these things efficient enough. But we do see a trend that there are more companies asking for ideas within this area. And I think that this is one of the most important things for startup companies. If you can provide new business models and how to use the internally created data, how you can use that data in a way that you create a new business for the companies. Here is a very, very interesting way. And if we do that in Sweden, there is a large market in other countries as well to work with these issues. So what can we expect, really? Knowing that these are the trends we can see today, what is expected? Well, the internal digitalization is on its way, and you will see more of that, and you will see examples of it, good examples, and so on, and they will be highlighted. Of course, that will inspire others to start working with the same. But and also the large companies which you have heard about today with Synelip and other initiatives, the large companies, they will strengthen their cooperation with the startups. But the SMEs are sort of in between. They are too big to be able to go into the Synelip or other arenas, and they are too small to be able to work efficiently with the startups by themselves. So there is a need for something to happen here, and we are at Tillväxtverket working partly with this. I don't say that we are going to create a sort of Synelip arena for all the companies in industry. That's not possible. We have to rely on other partners. But we can inspire and we can do things in order to ease up this. And one way we are doing that is through the government program that is called Digitalization Leap. It's been going on now for 1.5 years, and it's going the whole next year as well. And we have some 200 companies that have attended this digitalization. The first step is called Kickstart. It's one whole day plus 2 half days in finding out what is digitalization all about. Well, you cannot learn that in 3 times. No, but as I usually explain, if you walk into a completely dark room, the first thing you do is to turn on the light. Because if you have light in the room, it's much easier to navigate and see if there are any obstacles or so on. And the kickstart is actually that. It's walking into the dark room of digitalization, turn on the light and see what is happening, what is actually happening, and some examples on what you can do. We have some more opportunities also with coaching programs and so on, where the companies can have some extra help. And what we can see is that from the beginning, a lot of the companies, oh yeah, we look something, but we don't have time. Yeah, interesting, but we don't have time. But we have seen during these 1.5 years, it's easier to get the companies to attend these programs. And that is interesting because that is part of the change. We had a program for coaching in southern Sweden, and they said, well, during this period of time, we're going to work with 24 companies, not very much, but that was their possibilities. And they had a hard time, and they came back and said, oh, we're not sure we're going to reach these 24. And then they started to marketing the program in a different way, and now they came back just recently and said, well, can we have some more money because we can work with at least 12 more companies, so it will be a total of 36. It's 50% increase in number of companies they're working with, and that's during 1 year. So first they didn't even think they could reach 24 companies, and now they say we need to reach 50% more. So the companies are gradually changing their interest in what is digitalization. And we see more companies going into this, and I think that this trend that is going on, more and more of the SME companies are interested in what can digitalization be for us, and how can we change our business model, and what could be the benefits for us going into digitalization. We see a start of this, and we will see in 1 year from now, when we have the next UPPSTART conference, maybe we will have some industrial companies on stage that they're telling you, well, this is how we work, and this is our next step, and so on, inspiring other industrial companies as well as startups to work with. Because this is a large market. In Sweden, we have around 4,000 production companies within industry that has more than 10 people working there. And 1% of these companies are large ones. So there are 250,000 people working in Swedish industry in companies that has less than 250 employees. And that is quite interesting. So it's a large market. There is some more information. Most of it is in Swedish, but if you have any problems finding out the information you need and you cannot find it in English and you cannot read Swedish, which some of you cannot, just feel free to contact me, and I will do my very best to help you out and try to help you to find partners, customers, and so on, and help you finding the right, because we have a lot of very, very strong networks within Tillväxtverket, and we are very, very happy to help other companies. That's our role, to help other companies to use our networks in increasing their own business. Thank you.
So this is really super interesting. I'm wondering, just one question from me. So for us, it's also really important to always stay relevant. And sometimes even us, it might not be about turning on the light, but maybe it gets dark somewhere without us noticing. And to stay relevant, you have to always be on top of what's happening, what are the new technologies. Since you are working with the smart trends and new trends of 2018, what would you tell us that we should go home and Google today?
Well, think about new ways of doing your own business. I mean, we are now selling these products. Think about, could we do something else than sell them? Could we add on any kind of service during the production phase of it, or during the lifetime of the product? Could we do anything there? Or do we see a business that is some sort of connected to what we're doing today, that we could expand? Maybe find a partner so we could broaden our range where we are actually on the market. Those are 3 things I would advise.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any questions for Björn?
Are you interested in a new international smart city standard that's come from a Swedish company?
Could be interesting. I myself is not working with the smart cities, but it could be interesting because we are, if we can help small companies to grow, that's part of our work, but it's not part of my personal work at Tillväxtverket. But let's have a talk about it and see what's in it. Yep.
Are we doing anything on a European level? You spoke about the Swedish perspective. Is there an EU cooperation?
There is really nothing there are no EU programs within this area, but almost all countries have their own ideas about this industrial development. So you find programs in Germany, you find them in France, you can see them in Belgium and so on. But the funny thing really is that industry is still sort of a national interest. So you don't have any large EU programs. But in the next we have today we have the Horizon 2020 as the big EU program. And what we're talking about for the next 7 years in the next program, the production issues are being more relevant. So I would say that the industrial issues will come into more on the EU level. But so far, even on the EU level, the thinking has been that production is moving from the Western countries over to the Eastern part, either within the EU or outside the EU. And that has been a strong trend. Everyone knows that this is what is happening. But still, we have exactly the same amount of people in Sweden working within industry and industrial service companies as we had 25 years ago. So the growth has created just as many jobs as has been moved out, which is kind of interesting.
One last question. You are one of the main sponsors of this event.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a bit what has been the highlight of your day so far? Other than standing here, of course, with me.
I've talked to, we have a booth outside the main stage, some of you might have noticed that, and we have been talking to lots of companies. One was an industrial company that was kind of interesting, they were looking for startups to help them. We have talked about with lots of startup companies that we can bring into the industry, and we have, as one of our ideas of being here is we have this Startup Sweden, the bootcamp program, which is industrial program for the first time, and that will be in February, March. So we are trying to find companies that are interested in doing business with industry and have it to our boot camp, and we do find companies that are interested in that, and that I think is very, very good because industry is it's a good customer, it's a large customer, it's a fairly demanding customer, and if you do good business in Sweden, you can export it to many other countries because we are a well-developed industrial country, Sweden, and we can have export these ideas to different countries.
Absolutely. So if you want to collaborate with Tillväxtverket, you can contact or try to grab Björn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.